All right, we got some big news in baseball. Commissioner Rob Manfred has removed Pete Rose from the permanently ineligible list, opening the door for the all-time hits leader to be elected to the Hall of Fame. The bans of other deceased players, including shoeless Joe Jackson and his 1919 Black Sox teammates, have also been lifted. Rose now, by the way, died in September. He had been banned since 1989 after an investigation found he bet on baseball. Rose denied the claim for years, but finally came clean in 2004. Now, his on-field legacy, it's hard to argue against. One of the best in baseball history. Major League Baseball's all-time leader in games, at-bats, and, of course, hits. He won 3 World Series in a 6-year span, and his 44-game hit streak is tied for the second longest in Major League history. Tim Kurkjian joins us now live with much more on this developing story. Tim, today's news ends the ban that Rose accepted in August of 1989. At the time, reinstatement was an option, but it never came to be until today. Why did it take more than 35 years?
Well, the President of the United States put pressure on baseball to make this happen. Exactly how much pressure is not clear. And baseball, of course, betting in baseball is rampant today. Of course, you're not allowed to bet on baseball if you work inside the game. And sadly, I think the biggest factor is that Pete Rose died. Remember, in 2015, Rob Manfred called him an unacceptable risk of further violation. But since he died, apparently now he is no longer a risk. Those are just 3 factors that led us to today.
Okay, Tim, now that he's eligible for the Hall of Fame, what are the next steps in the process for him to enter Cooperstown?
Well, the next step will be, it's possible he'll be put on a classic era ballot, which will be voted on in December of 2027. 16 people will be on that committee. Kevin, I've been on 4 of those committees in my career. You have to get 12 out of 16 votes, 75%, in order to be voted into the Hall of Fame. And don't forget, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds went on those special ballot, and each of them got fewer than 4 votes after getting 65% of the vote from the writers. So it is a very difficult committee, and it all depends on the makeup of the committee. And it's a very, very interesting process.
You mentioned the makeup. One member of that 16-person committee is Rose's former teammate in Cincinnati. That is Tony Perez. They also played together in Philadelphia. They played, again, 16 years in Cincinnati. Tim, the rules for voting, I'm going to go through something here. It states here, voting shall be based upon the individual's record, ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contribution to the game. If you were on the Classic Baseball Era Committee right now, would you vote for Pete Rose?
Well, Kevin, this is the hardest question that I've been asked in 45 years of covering baseball. And if I were on the committee today, I would walk into the room thinking that I am going to vote for Pete Rose and then listen to everyone in that room and perhaps make another determination. But today's ruling from Major League Baseball essentially said to me that Pete Rose has served his time. But also keep in mind, Kevin, 20 years ago, I said on ESPN that I would vote for Pete Rose for the Hall of Fame if he were on the ballot. And Frank Robinson, with whom I had a tremendous relationship, screamed at me and said, I cannot believe that you said you would vote for Pete Rose for the Hall of Fame. He violated the #1 rule in baseball. He bet on the game. And if he ever gets in the Hall of Fame, I will never go back to the Hall of Fame for any reason if I'm in the same club as Pete Rose. And remember, Frank and Pete Rose were teammates with the Reds, but this just shows you how strongly former players feel about this topic. And on that special committee, they're likely former players on that committee. So it's going to be a tough road still for Pete Rose to get in the Hall of Fame if he gets on a special ballot.
And by the way, I want to remind everybody, too, the next scheduled committee vote is December of 2027. Tim, you're the best. We appreciate the insight.